So today on Endures, I am joined by Bernadette Cilia. Bernadette is the founder of BMC Buyers Agency in Sydney. Thank you so much for joining me, Bernadette.
You're very welcome. Glad to be here.
So I have never used a buyer's agent before. So for people who haven't, tell us a little bit about what you do and the type of people that you work with.
So, a buyer's agent is someone who can help you through the property purchasing journey. We are highly skilled, highly experienced in purchasing property, and therefore we can get better outcomes. So, it's all about finding the right property that meets your brief and then getting that property at the right price.
What led you into this work? I'm always really keen to find out why people do what they do.
Yeah, so I grew up in a family where my parents invested in property. I bought my first investment property in my early 20s, but I never wanted to become a real estate agent, even though I had a really keen interest in real estate. For me, it was a really male-dominated industry. Real estate agents didn't have the best reputations, and it didn't sit well with my moral compass. So I pursued other career ambitions. And then it was about 5 years ago when my husband and I were looking at purchasing an investment property. And I had just had my second child, and I just didn't have the capacity. I didn't have the mental kind of room to be able to do the research, to be able to find the right location for our next investment. So I actually had an ad pop up on Facebook about a buyer's agent. I was like, hang on, like I know these exist in America, but you're telling me they're in Australia now? So of course I started doing some research on buyer's agents, and we used one to purchase our property that we were looking to purchase at that time, and it was a great experience. And from there I turned around to my husband and said, this is it, I'm going to be a buyer's agent. Went out straight away, got my real estate license, did some education to become a buyer's agent, and then started my journey towards opening up my own business, which was about 2 years. So I've been in business almost 4 years now.
Amazing. There's something about that sigh of relief when you get somebody, whether it's financial help, whether it's an external consultant, whether anyone, like help at home, when you get somebody who just takes some of that mental load and that research or whatever the case might be off of you.
Yes.
And I'm really glad to hear that you had a great experience when you used a buyer's agent. What constitutes a good experience versus not a good experience? What do you think the kind of things people should look out for in a buyer's agent are?
Yeah, so first of all, research is so important. There have been a lot of changes recently. You've got the changes to the budget, which impact investors. You've got changes to self-managed super fund lending. You've got increase in interest rates, and there's a lot of uncertainty in the market at the moment. So anybody who is relying on research that was done even 2 months ago is working on outdated research. So research is my number one kind of thing. I redo my research with every single client that comes on board so that I know that it's up to date. But it goes past just numbers on a paper. It actually goes into understanding the area where you're buying as well. Because you think about the suburb that you live in, right? There will be streets in that suburb which will attract a premium, and there will be streets that just don't. And when you don't understand the area, you don't pick up on those nuances, and it's a recipe for overpaying for a property. So it's not just about the research, it's about understanding the area. And one of the things that I say to my prospects when I get asked, how many clients do you deal with a month? And I'm very open. I don't work with high levels of clients. I don't work with massive numbers, because the experience that I provide is bespoke. I'm one of a very, very small percentage of buyer's agents out there that goes and sees every single property that they purchase for their clients. And that all takes time, energy, and money. So it's not about getting the cheapest. it's not about doing a video walkthrough and thinking that that is actually sufficient due diligence. It's actually about understanding the property that you're going to purchase. Because I've walked away from many when I've gone and seen them, and I've seen issues with the property that weren't bad enough to negotiate down the price, but they would have potentially cost my clients hundreds of thousands of dollars in 5-10 years time.
Yeah. The retaining walls, the roofs, all the little things that you don't think about. That, yeah, 100%.
Exactly. Yeah.
I find that fascinating when we spoke before, when we met, that the low percentage of buyer's agents that actually go to look at the property, because 100% I can think whenever I was trying to buy my house and I was looking at a particular suburb here in Cairns, I didn't end up buying there, but there was, so for anyone in Cairns, in Edge Hill, you know, if you cross over one street in Edge Hill, you kind of go, is this still Edge Hill? Technically it is, but you've got to look at the other houses in the neighborhood and what you're close to and all of these other little things that really devalue your property.
Yes, and it's true what they say, you're better off buying the worst house in the best street rather than the best house on the worst street. And for me, seeing the property, understanding the area, that all comes back to not just me delivering professionally, but it also comes back to where it sits personally with me. So if I wouldn't purchase the property, I wouldn't put it forward to my clients to purchase. And this is all based on the way that I want to be treated as a human being, the way that I have developed my business and my approach in my business aligns with what sits comfortably with me and what allows me to sleep well at night when my children aren't waking me up.
Yeah. That's so important in business. You know, we're kind of sold this thing of wanting to have the biggest business. And I know in my clinical business, I have had people say, you could franchise, you could do this. I don't want to. Our quality is so important to me. And obviously, as soon as you hire anybody, you can't 100% control what somebody does. But wanting to maintain a certain level of standards and so on is really, really important. I was really interested when I just checked out your website before to see that you have been named a Visionary Woman Founder to Watch in 2026. So tell me about that.
Yeah, so that was a nomination that kind of came out of nowhere. I would love to know who actually put me forward for that because it was a beautiful honour. But I can't actually tell you where it came from. That's not a very interesting story, is it?
I love just the idea of being visionary. I mean,
yeah.
What other things do you think that you offer that make you stand out in your industry?
I think the fact that I want to raise the bar in the industry, and a part of that is it's a really challenging journey because I'm going against the grain of what a lot of buyer's agents out there do, and I am kind of looking under the rug and where all the dirty stuff has been swept under the rug, and I'm pulling it out and going, hang on a second, this isn't good enough. So I really want to see a change in the industry. It's really hard because where there is lots of money, that also breeds greed. And when you have particular educators in the industry going, earn $10,000 a month as a side hustle being a buyer's agent, it attracts the wrong people into the industry. It attracts people who think that it's actually easy to be a buyer's agent. And I can tell you it's not. And it's also not easy to get to the point where you're earning $10,000 a month. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of relationship building in terms of real estate agents where you source your properties from, but then also referral partners as well. Your clients have very high expectations, as they should. They're paying for a service, they're paying for an outcome which you need to deliver on. But for me, my vision for the buyer's agent space is that we become a regulated industry and we are held more accountable so that it's not somebody sitting behind a computer screen charging someone $15,000 to purchase a property on their behalf when they've only seen a video walkthrough, when they don't understand the research behind it. If we are regulated and if we have an accredited course that lifts the standard of education, then sure, you can justify charging that amount of money. But sitting behind a computer screen, going off what is mass produced on social media about locations, where they're giving advice on locations without understanding who is actually watching that and how dangerous it is. I don't talk locations with my clients or potential clients until they've been through their strategy session. And that is not because I have anything to hide, but I need to understand all of the information before I can actually present a location. You shouldn't actually be going into serving a client with a predetermined location in mind for their investment. The data should lead your way based on what their strategy is. Whereas most people are just following the trends and following the hotspots, but a lot of them are buying too late and costing people money. So I think we really need to raise the bar in terms of what is expected of buyers agents and how they're held accountable. So that's my vision for the future.
It's like the financial planners, right? Like, you can't be a financial planner and be on Facebook saying everyone needs to buy Vanguard or everyone needs to do this. And I think in Australia, and I don't know if you see it changing, but there's always, it's like the great Australian dream, right? Like property. And people have really been quite shook up because I guess a lot of people have had a lot of their eggs in the property basket. But what I see when I see people talking about property and all this stuff they're making from their investment property, etc., is often they don't factor in all of the other costs. And, any of us can go and buy shares in something, right, based on somebody recommending it on social media. We can actually make the shares liquid super quickly. We can't make a property liquid that quickly. So it's not as safe or as easy as, I guess, what people think it is. So I really like your approach to really get to know the buyer. So with that, I guess there has been a lot of talk about the budget. So if anybody's listening, you're not in Australia, essentially the government in the May budget pulled the rug out from a lot of people. A lot of the tax changes are not fully legislated yet, but there's going to be a lot of arguing back and forth. And I think a lot of uncertainty in businesses and capital gains tax and property. What have you seen happen with your clients and in the market?
My clients in particular, so my approach to property investing has always been focused on cash flow. So all of my clients, before they purchase a property, I talk to them about pre-tax scenarios. For example, if a property is going to cost you $200 a week, right, out of pocket, you have to pay that money before you get it back from the tax man. So I look at it and I go, okay, this is what it's going to cost you each week to hold this property. Forget about tax benefits. How does that sit with you? If they say, yes, great, fantastic. If they go, no, it's too much, I can't afford that, I need it to be $100, whatever the case is, okay, we work within those parameters. Then the tax has always been a benefit, right? It hasn't been, I'm relying on negative gearing to be able to purchase an investment property. Now, when I look at properties, I'm also looking at the stability of the location as well. So it's not purely cash flow, but you need to have that element of the money's got to come out before I get the tax benefits. So for my clients, there hasn't been too much of a change. They have had their borrowing capacities impacted between 20 and 30%, which has meant that we've needed to kind of look at and rejig strategies, which is fine. I've been through that with them. The thing that scares me at the moment is that there's a huge push towards new builds. Now, new builds typically have higher holding costs, higher out-of-pocket costs Yes, you've got the tax benefits, but again, you have to pay that money before you get it back. So it's really only great if you're a high income earner and you have the disposable cash, and you also have advantage to take you have also have the room to take advantage of those cash benefits, so the tax benefits, sorry. I have a potential client who bought a new property off the plan, settled 2 years ago. After tax, that property is costing them $17,000 a year. So the tax benefits aren't fully realised because they're not earning enough to fully realise the benefits. Now, the sad thing on top of that is the area hasn't grown as much as what they were told it would. If they were to sell now so that they could stop paying that $17,000, they would have actually made a loss. So they either have to double down and just go, we're just going to hold it until this peaks and we can sell it and get back this money that we've lost, or they cut their losses and they get out now. That's not a decision I go into them. That's financial advice. Buyers agents aren't qualified to give financial advice, although a lot of them do. And that's how we're actually in this predicament, in my opinion, because a lot of them were advising to purchase properties in trusts using mortgage brokers and accountants who weren't 100% above board. And that's how you hear these stories of people who've purchased 30, 50, 100 properties. Yeah. That's not normal.
I've been invited to those events.
And it's also a domino effect.
An electrician, and now he owns these 20 things, and then he does this, and I'm like, who do they sleep at night?
Yeah, it's a domino effect because they're all negatively geared, and all it's going to take is one property to fall over and they'll potentially lose everything. But in my opinion, what the government should be doing, instead of hurting the 70% of investors who only have one property, they should actually be focusing on that other 30% and tightening the regulations around that 30%, the buying in trusts, and how mortgage brokers and accountants aren't actually doing the proper due diligence on the directors of the trusts, which means that they're establishing these trusts in isolation, but they're not actually looking at the director behind the trusts. And if one of the properties falls over, it could mean that the director loses everything. So I wouldn't want to be in their position because, like you said, how do you sleep at night?
Well, you're asset rich and cash poor, aren't you? So who are the types of professionals that you work with that are really essential to the piece? So I'm assuming a good mortgage broker, a good accountant. Is there...
And great property lawyers or conveyancers. So having really good communication with mortgage brokers, accountants, financial planners and property lawyers or conveyancers is really important. Particularly the relationship with the mortgage brokers at the moment is really important. I'll give you an example. I've got a client at the moment, and her borrowing capacity is fairly limited, but she has a very high loan to value ratio. So she's borrowing pretty much all of the loan for the property, which means she's kind of limited in where she can buy. So not all locations will attract the same amount of funding from the banks. So if you go a little bit more regional, the banks might go, oh, we don't want a 20% deposit, we want a 35% deposit because there's increased risk in that area. So it's working within what the banks will also lend. So it's not always clear cut whether a purchase can actually happen when you're looking outside of kind of your metro areas. So communication with mortgage brokers, accountants, financial planners, property lawyers and conveyancers, that's really key.
You personally go to see all the properties, so what is the area that you cover?
At the moment, I work within New South Wales. However, I do my research Australia-wide. So the purpose of that is to make sure that I'm not blindsided by going, I only work within New South Wales. And then I partner with buyers agents outside of New South Wales if there are opportunities to purchase outside of the state. Yeah, so it's a rather large geographical location. I do tend to find that there are pockets which I have more clients interested in than others, just depending on the type of investment that they're looking for, or whether they're owner occupied as well. So I love working in the owner occupied space. It's a really
It must
special
be
place to
amazing
work.
to help people find that dream home.
Yes, it
Yeah,
is. It is, and it's. I love getting to know the client and their family,
yeah,
and I know as soon as I walk into a property, I can tell within like a minute of being in there if it's the right property for them or not. And I love being able to take all that stress away from the whole process and just be able to go, here's the one that I think that you would love.
yeah,
And when they walk in and they go, oh my gosh, I'm home, it's just the most beautiful feeling.
yeah. Because it's
Yeah,
stressful and it's time consuming.
it is. It
Spending all
is.
your weekends looking at properties and
Yes, and that's why I do what I do, because it is really stressful. It is time consuming. It's a full time job. So if you're a parent who works full time and then has to look on top of that, the rest of your life literally just gets put on hold. And
yeah,
for me, it's about the value of time.
yeah.
So part of the reason I changed careers was when I became a mum, I hated my job. I worked in a toxic work environment, and I remember going back after maternity leave and I cried every day for the first month. And I just went, I cannot just trade time with my baby for a paycheck. Like that's not what I want. I would rather be earning half the amount of money and love what I do, because I'd go home and I'd be exhausted, mentally and emotionally exhausted, and I didn't have then the energy to give the best to my baby. And so I went, right, that's it. I'm going to find what I want to do, and I'm going to do something that lights me up, something where I can help people and make things easier for people and solve problems for people and really make a difference in their journey. And yeah, so I say the worst day in business is still better than the best day in my last career. So I'm pretty lucky.
Circles back to what you were talking about earlier. If we pursue something just for the money, we're just going to be miserable because we wind up spending the money to try and allay some of our misery, right? Or you're working the long hours and then you're spending money on takeaway, or like all of these things. Whereas actually building something that aligns with our purpose and our vision and that we actually love to do, it doesn't make it not hard, but it means that when it's hard, you can do it, right?
Yeah,
And you see there's actually a point to it.
100%. And it's never been my goal to be the biggest buyer's agency in Australia. It's been my goal to be the best. And I want to come home at the end of the day, or when my kids get home, to be able to put a smile on my face and still have that want to get down and play with them. My kids are young, they're 3, 5 and 7, and they take a lot of energy. So
Yeah,
if I'm drained when I walk in the door, like, that's not fair on them.
isn't it?
So,
Yeah, yeah,
it's all about putting the best version of me forward. And, one day, I hope to be able to look back and go, this was the perfect decision for my family. And I think it is, but I think the lesson that I'm teaching them in terms of loving what you do, everything else you can make work. My business is now at the size where I've more than supplemented my income that I had pre-opening my business when I was in corporate world. So it works. Like, yes, it's taken time,
yeah,
but I wouldn't change it, because I think I'm a better mum because of it. And that's what I want them to learn. Like, don't chase the money. Do
yeah.
something that lights you up. Do something that makes you happy, and everything else will fall into place. Just
Yeah.
trust the universe will provide.
I think that's a beautiful lead in to our closing question, which is, if there was no barriers, what legacy would you like to leave?
Professionally, I'd really like to be instrumental in raising the bar in the industry. Like I mentioned before, there are a lot of people being burnt out there by buyers agents who just don't know what they're doing. And I really want to play a hand in making sure that the consumer out there is protected. And, you know, I have absolutely no issue at holding myself accountable to all the same expectations that I place on others in the industry. So that would be top of the list professionally. And then personally at home, like I was mentioning before, you know, leading by example for my kids and helping them become who they were meant to be without the expectation of, you know, salary or labels or anything like that, but just allow them to live a life where they can do what they love and, you know, be a happy person for it.
Amazing. I love that. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Bernadette. It was lovely having you on the podcast.
You're welcome. It's been great chatting, and thank you so much for inviting me on.